All right. So indicator 5, and this is actually our 4th day in the indicator, but it's our first day in standard form. So however you want to label your notes, as long as you have standard form day 1 in your notes, we're good. Okay, in your 3, if you're at home, you need to be in your 3-ring binder, writing down all these examples and the steps that I'm going to give you. All right, so a couple things about standard form. If you'll notice, okay, our 3 linear forms that we have talked about so far. Okay, linear means, what does it graph? It graphs a line. So our 3 linear forms that we're dealing with is one, we had our, and I'm just going to abbreviate here. We had our slope-intercept form, which we just got done spending several days on, and that is y equals mx plus b. And so for the equation to be written in y equals mx plus b, we needed to find the numbers or the values of m and b. And then when we plug them in there, we leave our generic x and our generic y. We plug numbers in for m and b, and then that's that form. Now, today we're going to talk about, and tomorrow we're going to talk about standard form. And in standard form, you've got ax plus by equals c. And the reason I color code these is because if you'll notice in slope-intercept and in standard, both of those equations, you have a generic x and a generic y. You leave them xy. You don't put numbers in for them for your final answer. You may need to like plug in and find your b and all of that. But when you're actually writing the final form of the equation, you leave your x and your y generic. And you have a number in place of a, b, and c. Just like in slope-intercept, we had a number in place of m and b. Okay? And then the last one, I'm not going to really even write out what this one is yet, because we're going to deal with this in probably tomorrow or the next day. But we also have point slope form. And when we get there, you'll see that even in point slope form, we also have a generic x and a generic y. Okay? So a couple of rules for standard form. Okay? The first rule, you need these in your notes. Okay? The first rule is just that it's in the right order, which is just the actual form itself. So ax plus by equals c. That's the first rule. Your x value has to be written first on the left, then your y value, and then on the other side of the equal sign is your whole number or your constant. The second rule is just the a. This is just for the a. The a cannot be a negative. Can't be a negative number. And another way to write that is the a has to be greater than 0. Okay, whichever way makes more sense to you, but that's the rule. And then the third rule is that a cannot be a fraction. And that is going to come into play tomorrow. So today, all of today's homework, we don't deal with fractions. Tomorrow we'll add fractions in, but you still need to know the 3 rules. And so when we're told to get an equation in standard form, we know we need to move stuff around using algebra, right? Add and subtract and distribute and whatever we need to do to get the x and the y on the left and all the numbers on the right. Okay? All right. Let's do a couple of examples. And let's see, day 1 notes. Here we go. All right. So example number 1 is if we're given an equation that looks like this, y equals 12x minus 2. 12x minus 2. Now, what form is this currently in? Yeah, it's currently in slope-intercept, right? That's y equals mx plus b. But the directions that we're given here are to write it in standard. So I'm going to write this out to the side because I'm going to remind myself what my end goal is. And I do this even when I was in college, taking college math classes like this. If the instructions say write it in standard form, I'm going to circle the word standard, and right above it, I'm going to write ax plus by equals c. Because if I'm working the problem, I can glance up and constantly remind myself, what's my end goal, right? What am I trying to get to? So in this case, what do I need to move in order to get the x and the y both on the left? Yeah, I need to move that 12x, and it's currently positive, so I'm going to subtract, 12x from both sides. And on the left now, I have negative 12x. Wow, my handwriting is just getting worse and worse as the day goes on. All right, negative 12x. Now that's a positive y, so I put plus y equals, left over here is negative 2. So my first rule is I need to get my x and my y on my left. X is written first. I have that. What about my next rule? Can my 12 be a negative? No. How do I get rid of a negative? If I divide by a negative 1, as long as I do it to everybody, it's fair. So as long as I do it all the way across the problem, I haven't broken any math rules. My negative 12 divided by negative 1 goes to positive 12x. Now my positive y now goes negative, and my negative 2 now goes positive. So you basically, by dividing across the board by negative 1, you flip the sign of everything. But what that does is it makes your equation fit within the rules, and it makes that lead term positive. So that is my answer written in standard form. Now, this being a negative y, not a problem. Okay, you can have that being negative all day long. Your constant over on the other side can be a negative. That doesn't hurt anything. The only thing that can't be negative is your lead term. All right? All right, example number 2 is when it's given to us in a different form. So we have y minus 3 equals negative x minus 1. And again, our instructions are get it in standard. So I'm going to come out here to the side and I'm going to write what standard form is to remind myself where I'm heading, right? What my goal is. In math, what's the first thing we always want to get rid of? Yep, we want to distribute to get rid of those parentheses. So when I do that, I get y minus 3 equals negative times x is just negative x, and a negative times negative 1 is positive 1. Now I've got a couple things I need to move here, right? I need to get that negative 3 over to the right, and I need to get the x over to the left in order to be in standard form. So let's move that 3 first. So it's a negative, so I'm going to add 3, and I'm going to add 3 to the one that's already over there. And I get y equals negative x plus 4. Now let me pause here for a second. What form is this? Slope-intercept form. And you guys don't know it yet because we haven't done it, but it started at the very top. That's point-slope form. So we started in point-slope form. We did a little algebra, and we got to slope-intercept form, but our final goal or our instructions said get to standard. So if the instructions said get to slope-intercept form, we'd be done. But since we got to get it in standard, we got a little bit more moving to do, and we need to get that x over. So I'm going to go positive x and positive x, or plus x and plus x. And remember, on the left, does it matter which one I write first? Always write the x first, right? X plus y equals 4. Am I in standard form? Have I got all my rules checked off? My x, my y equals a number. My x is positive, so that's standard form. And I want to show you along the way, and I just want to point this out, and if we have time when I'm done with the notes, I want to show you guys this, but I want to point something out. I told you we started out in point-slope form, right? This is point-slope form. We did a little bit of algebra, and we got to slope-intercept form. And then we did a little bit more algebra, and we got to standard form. These are all just different forms of the exact same line. If I graph those 3 lines, I'm going to get the same exact line. It's just they're written in different forms. And you can use algebra to bounce back and forth between the forms, however the instructions say to move it. No matter how it's given to you, with a little bit of algebra, you can put it in the right form just by moving things where it has to be. Okay? Any question with that? All right, so the first 2 examples, we were just given an equation already. We just had to move around some things. Now what if we're not given an equation? What if we're just given some clues? So let's look at example number 3 here. And we're given the clue that it's a point on the line is 6, negative 3, and it has a slope of 2. And the directions say get it in standard. So when it says standard, I'm going to write this out to the side to remind myself what standard is. Okay, there's standard. And I have a point and I have a slope. And since we haven't learned point slope form yet, we'll skip that. But you can go right to point slope form since you're given a point and a slope. But with a point, which we know is an x and a y, and an m, right? If we use y equals mx plus b, we have a y, an m, and an x. Can we solve for b? We can. So let's plug in what we have. We have a y, which is -3. We have an m, which is 2. We have an x, which is 6. And then plus b, which is what we need to find. And then let's get this a little bit. 2 times 6 is 12 plus b. And then we're going to subtract 12 and subtract 12. And we get b equals -15. Well, now I have an m and I have a b. Can I write it in standard form yet? I have no idea what the a and the x or what the a, the b, and the c is. I have no idea. But with an m and a b, I can write it in what form? Yeah, I can write it in, when I drag my hand, it goes crazy. I can write it in mx plus b, because with mx plus b, I just need an m and a b, and I have an m and a b. So y equals, my m is 2, x, remember generic x, generic y, fill in the m and the b. Now with a little bit of algebra, I can go from this to standard. So what do I need to move? Yep, -2x and -2x, and write the 2x value first, so -2x, it's a positive y, so plus y equals -15. Now am I in standard? What do I need to do? Get rid of the negative. So I divide by -1. If I do it to 1, I do it all the way across the board. And what that does is it flips the sign of everything. So I end up with 2x minus y, because my plus y goes negative, and then my -15 goes positive. And that is my equation in standard form. So usually with whatever clues you're given, you can't just go straight to the answer. You have to kind of take this stair-step approach of take what they give you and go little by little and tweak it each time until you can get a little bit closer to and closer to until you can finally get it moved around into standard. Okay, one more example and then we're done. And you need to make sure you have these written down in your notes because your homework has each one of these types of problems in it. Okay? All right, so if we're given 2 points, so if we're given 0, 4, and we're given -2, 8. Okay, those are the clues that we're given. And we're told standard form, so I'm going to write out to the side here my standard form, which is my end goal. What's the first thing when you're given 2 points? What's the first thing you should always find? Slope. M equals. I'm going to name my points here. I've got x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. And my slope formula is y2 minus y1. So 8 minus 4 over x2, which is -2 minus 0. 8 minus 4 is 4. -2 minus 0 is just -2, and then that reduces to -2. So I have an m. But in order to graph, or at least in order to start out, I need an m and I need a b. I just found my m to be -2. Do I have a b? What do you guys think? Who says? Why is it 4?
Because that one has 0 as the x.
This point, yep. If you can catch it, it'll save you a little bit of math. Because the x value is 0, that automatically makes that your y-intercept. So I can come in and fill in my b without any math. Now, if you forget, okay, and you decide to do the math of it, you would have 4 equals my slope times my 0x plus b. 0 goes away, and I get 4 equals b, which we already knew. Okay, so if you forget it and you take the long way, it's just an extra couple seconds of math. no harm, no foul, but this is just a nice little bonus. All right, so I have an M and I have a B. I still can't go to standard form, but I can go to slope-intercept because I have a slope and an intercept. So y equals my slope, generic x, plus my b. Generic x, my m and my b. Okay, what do I need to move? Yep, add 2x and add 2x, and that puts that 2x over on the left, so I get 2x plus y equals 4. Now what? Am I good? My 2's positive. I'm good. Okay, so if you don't have a slope, find your slope. Once you found your slope, then you need to write your equation in slope-intercept form, just because that's all you have. And then once you do that, you can then move stuff around to get it in standard form. Okay? For those of you online, your assignment is, if you hit load, it'll load through Kami. Show all of the work, just like I did on all of these examples, finding your slope, writing your equation, and then doing the math to get it in standard form, and then hit submit through Canvas or through Kami when you're done. And as always, email me if you have any questions.